Ryder, it's been 3 years, Mrs. Calloway said, her voice laced with unease. Amber keeps scoring higher and higher. This time, she got accepted into Winthrop University. Are you really not going to let her go? Ryder's response was swift and firm. Sage is using her ID. If Amber goes to college, it'll expose everything. For Sage's sake, I can't let that happen. Chapter 1. The year college entrance exams were reinstated. My fiancé stole my acceptance letter and gave it to my sister, Sage Wilder. Then, the two of them ran away together. The Calloways, the family who had taken me in and raised me, got down on their knees and begged me not to report their son and Sage. They reminded me of the debt I owed them, of how they had sheltered and fed me, as if that justified their betrayal. They even locked me in the storage shed, depriving me of food and water, so their son and Sage could be together. I caught the plague from the rats that infested the place. I was on the verge of death when Ryder Calloway, their eldest son, sneaked in with a bowl of porridge. Amber, what they did to you is unforgivable, he whispered as he knelt beside me. I've told my parents, I won't marry anyone but you. Marry me and I will support you for a lifetime. I'll help you achieve all your dreams. At that moment, I was too weak to question anything. I was just grateful someone still cared. Tears welled in my eyes. Moved by his words, I married him. By day, I helped him run his school, managing the countless little details that kept things afloat. By night, I studied relentlessly, determined to pass the entrance exams again. I took the entrance exams for 3 years, yet each time, I failed to make the cut. Eventually, I decided to let go. Maybe higher education wasn't meant for me. Maybe it was time to accept my role as Ryder's wife and dedicate myself to supporting him. That was, until I overheard a conversation that shattered everything I thought I knew. Ryder, it's been 3 years, Mrs. Calloway said, her voice laced with unease. Amber keeps scoring higher and higher. This time, she got accepted into Winthrop University. Are you really not going to let her go? Ryder's response was swift and firm. Sage is using her ID. If Amber goes to college, it'll expose everything. For Sage's sake, I can't let that happen. His father sighed. But Amber has already retaken the exams 3 times. Besides, Sage is graduating next year. If that bothers you, we can pull some strings and find Amber a new ID, or dash. Ryder cut him off with a sharp glare. Find her a fake test result? You want Amber to take someone else's spot and destroy another innocent person's future? How can you even say that? But Ryder, you've seen how hard she works, his mother argued. She spends all day helping you at school, and at night, she studies by candlelight. She's so exhausted that she can barely keep her eyes open, but she never complains. The last 2 times you hid her acceptance letters, I saw her crying in secret. She thought she was stupid, that she had wasted 2 years for nothing. She knows how much you care about these students. That's why she moved into the school dorms. She wanted to help. She does all the hardest, dirtiest work, and she treats us with nothing but kindness. She's a nice girl, Ryder. We've already wronged her once. If we do it again, I don't think there's any coming back from it. His parents' words were heartfelt, but Ryder had already made up his mind. Ryder remained unmoved. Enough. His voice was cold, final. I already wronged her once when I suggested Finn and Sage to steal her first acceptance letter. And I admit, tearing up her letters the past 2 years was cruel. Mrs. Calloway's eyes widened in shock, but Ryder continued without remorse. But Sage is different from Amber. She's always been frail. Without an education, she has no future. Amber, on the other hand, he scoffed. She married me. I'm a principal. She'll never have to worry about food or shelter. I'm offering her a lifetime of security. That should be enough. This letter has to go. Sage's future is more important than anything. With that, Ryder grabbed my acceptance letter and prepared to burn it, right in front of everyone. I stood outside the door, clutching a bowl of chicken soup I had made to nourish his health. My hands trembled as I stared at the paper, the very dream I had worked so hard for, about to turn to ashes. 3 years ago, when college entrance exams were reinstated, Sage, Finn, and I all took the test together. On the day results were posted, Sage's name was nowhere to be found. I barely had time to think about how to comfort her before someone told me that my acceptance letter had already been claimed. At the same time, Finn and Sage vanished. Someone saw them boarding a train to the capital, the exact city where my chosen university was located. I refused to believe it. I immediately told the Callaways, hoping they would help me contact Finn. But instead, they scolded me and shamelessly told me to let it go. Chapter 2, let me be honest with you, Finn's mother said, her tone devoid of any remorse. Finn has always loved your sister. Taking your acceptance letter and letting Sage take your place, that was his idea. Sage is different from you. She's been frail since childhood. Just let her have this. You can always take the entrance exam again next year. That was my achievement, my hard work. How could they expect me to just hand it over so easily? And on top of that, Sage had already stolen my fiancé. I tried to fight back, but the Callaways weren't going to let me ruin their perfect little arrangement. They tied me up and threw me into the woodshed, locking the door behind me. Afraid I'd cause trouble, they even cut off my food supply. I was left there for 7 days. 7 days of starvation, of sheer agony. My body grew weak, feverish. Rats swarmed the tiny room, biting at my skin. Before long, I caught an infection, my body burning up as I hovered on the brink of death. Just when I thought I would die alone in that wretched place, the door creaked open. A shadow loomed over me, and then a warm hand lifted my head. It was Ryder Calloway, Finn's older brother, holding a bowl of porridge. Hang in there, Amber. You can't give up now. You have dreams to chase, he said, his voice urgent. Determined to save me, Ryder defied his family, carrying me on his back all the way to the town clinic. When I was too weak to swallow my medicine, he pressed it to his lips and fed it to me himself, mouthful by mouthful. Thanks to his care, I survive. One night, as I lay weakly on the cot, Ryder got down on his knees. Amber, I've always loved you, he confessed. I never said anything because of Finn, but I can't hide it anymore. Then he took my hand in his eyes pleading. Will you marry me? I'll make up for everything Finn did to you. His words brought tears to my eyes. I had lost a fiancé and a sister, shattered by their betrayal. But in the wreckage of what they destroyed, I still had Ryder, steady, unwavering, and willing to give me everything. And so I said yes, and we got married. For 3 years, Ryder kept his word. He never let me work, insisting I focus on preparing for the entrance exam. And I, grateful for his devotion, helped out at his school, supporting his efforts. Everyone said I was lucky to have such a devoted husband, one with a stable career, a good heart. And for a while, I believed it too. Until today. Everyone said I was lucky to have such a devoted husband, a man with a stable career, a good heart. And for a while, I believed it too. Until today. It hit me all at once. The source of my suffering had always been Ryder. The sharp crash of ceramic against the floor jolted me from my thoughts. Ryder's hand froze midair, the letter he had been holding slipping from his grasp. I watched as he quickly turned toward the door, his hurried steps echoing in the silence. And then, as the door swung open and our eyes met, he didn't look surprised. No. Instead, his gaze turned cold, piercing. What are you doing here? His voice was sharp, accusatory, as though I were the one who had done something wrong. And how long have you been there? 2 short questions, but each one cut deep. I held his gaze, my chest tightening with the weight of unspoken words. After all the times he had destroyed my acceptance letters, crushed every dream I dared to hold, had he ever felt guilty? But I already knew the answer. He felt nothing. Just like Finn, his heart had always belonged to Sage. I swallowed back the words I longed to say and forced a smile, pretending as if nothing had happened. I just got here, I said lightly. I heard your parents were coming over, so I made some chicken soup for 'em. But Els spilled it. Ryder's eyes flickered down to my reddened hand, and for a brief moment, concern crossed his face. He took my hand gently and pulled me inside. You, he sighed, shaking his head. Didn't I tell you to leave these things to me? "You're always so careless," he scolded lightly, leading me to the kitchen. "Let me put some oil on the burn, and later, I'll take you to the city to have it checked." His touch was gentle as he rubbed the ointment over my skin. My gaze flickered past him to the Callaways, standing in the corner with their usual saccharine smiles. Only today, there was something different. A hint of guilt, barely concealed. The acceptance letter was no longer on the table. They must have hidden it. But I still couldn't help but test Ryder. "Ryder," I began cautiously, "I heard everyone's acceptance letters have arrived." "Did mine dash? I already checked," he cut off. "Yours wasn't there." "Don't be too upset." He looked at me in the eyes. "Besides, it's not like you have to worry about the future. I will take care of you for the rest of your life." Chapter 3. Ryder lied so effortlessly, his voice steady, his expression sincere, like he actually believed the nonsense coming out of his mouth. And as if that weren't enough, he even had the audacity to try and comfort me. My stomach twisted, my heart sinking lower than I thought possible. But despite the cold, hard truth staring me in the face, 3 years of marriage made me hesitate. I wanted to give Ryder one last chance. But I heard my name is on the admission list. I pressed, my voice barely above a whisper. "You heard wrong." Ryder cut me off without missing a beat, his brows knitting together as he looked at me like I was a child refusing to accept reality. "Amber, I know this is hard for you to accept, but if this is your fate, then no matter how much you fight it, you won't win." Ryder exhaled, as if he were the one suffering. "Some people are meant for college. Others aren't. From now on, you're not allowed to apply again." Fate? Is that what he called this? Ryder knew better than anyone that I had the grades to get into university. He knew I was capable. Yet, he was the one who tore up every single acceptance letters, the one who ripped away my wings before I could even take flight. Tears burned in my eyes, threatening to spill, but I refused to let them fall. I forced myself to stay composed. But the Callaway elders weren't blind. They noticed my silence, the stiffness in my posture. Ryder's mother shot him a disapproving glare before stepping in to smooth things over. "Ryder, is that a way to talk to your wife?" Mr. Callaway snapped. "Amber, sweetheart, don't take it to heart," Mrs. Callaway added with a forced smile. What Ryder meant was that even if you don't go to college, you'll still have a good life. He will always take care of you. She shot Ryder a warning glance, and he took the cue, pulling me into his arms in what I could only assume was supposed to be a reassuring embrace. "They're right," he murmured. "You don't have to worry about anything. I'm a principal. I can take care of you and give you a decent life." Before I could respond, a voice called out from outside the house. "Principal Callaway, Miss Sage just called. She's already on the train and asked you to pick her up." Ryder barely let the words register before his whole demeanor shifted. His eyes lit up, his entire body tensed with urgency. "She's already on her way? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" He snatched his coat, practically bolting toward the door. "It's too hot outside. If she gets heat stroke, it'll be a disaster." And just like that, he dropped everything and rushed out the door. The Callaway elders looked visibly uncomfortable, but quickly scrambled for an excuse to justify his actions. "Finn called earlier," Ryder's father explained. "He asked Ryder to take care of Sage while she visits. You understand, don't you?" "Yes," his mother chimed in. "After all, Sage is his sister-in-law, right?" I could still remember them sobbing, kneeling at my feet on the day of my wedding. They had sworn they would cut all ties between Ryder and Sage, begged me to forgive them, to trust that they wouldn't interfere in our lives anymore. Liars. Every last one of them. But instead of calling them out, I simply smiled and nodded. "You're right," I said smoothly. "Sage is my sister. Ryder's sister-in-law. Of course, it makes sense for him to pick her up." The Callaway elders beamed at my understanding nature, but they still lingered, watching me too closely, clearly unsure whether I knew about the admission letters. I needed to get out of there. Feigning indifference, I grabbed my things and made an excuse about needing to buy medicine in town. At the pharmacy, I reached into my pockets, feeling around for some spare change, but all I found was emptiness. Not even enough to buy a simple burn ointment. Just as I turned to leave, A familiar voice floated through the thin partitions separating me from the next room. Ryder, it's just a little low blood sugar. You really didn't have to bring me all the way to clinic. Sage's voice was as soft and delicate as ever, like she was afraid she might shatter if she spoke too loudly. Besides, she continued, a teasing lilt in her tone, you've already spent so much money on me. Won't my sister mind? Ryder scoffed, completely unfazed. She? What's she going to do? She lives off me. It's not like she gets a say in how I spend my money. My breath caught in my throat. Your health is more important, Ryder went on, his voice gentle in a way it had never been with me. Doctor, I'll take everything you recommended for her. And some candied plums, too. She hates bitter medicine. A pause. Then, Sage spoke again, hesitant. Thanks, Ryder. But don't you think we should get some for my sister, too? What if she gets jealous? Ryder laughed, completely dismissive. Why waste the money? She can handle bitter medicine. She always has. Chapter 4. Last year, the school raised 2 pigs, but they got sick. I wanted to take them to the vet in town, but Ryder refused to help. So, I dragged them there myself, struggling every step of the way. Honestly, I must have looked ridiculous, but I had no other choice. Ryder barely spared me a glance and scoffed. She insisted on taking those pigs to the vet even though I told her not to. Wasted all that effort for nothing. If the pigs were sick, she should have just slaughtered them and eaten the meat. What's the point of going through all that trouble? Sage let out a giggle, linking her arm with Ryder's as they strolled out of the store, their bags full of expensive supplements. Those pigs must have been at least 200 pounds each, right? Guess my sister isn't as weak as she looks, Sage said, amused. But still, I'm glad she took them to the vet. I wouldn't have eaten sick pork anyway. A shiver ran through me, but not from the cold. Ryder had a respectable job as the principal of the elementary school, earning a decent salary. But what no one knew was that most of his income went to helping the students, many of whom couldn't even afford to eat. We lived in near poverty. Some months, we didn't even have a proper meal with meat. I cared about him, so I found a way to buy 2 piglets for cheap, weak, underdeveloped ones that needed extra care. I spent months raising them, making sure they grew strong and healthy. When they got sick, I panicked. I loaded them onto a cart and pulled them all the way to town, my feet blistered and bleeding, just to save them. I thought if I could nurse them back to health, we'd finally have something decent to eat. But in the end, they didn't survive. Or at least, that's what Ryder told me. I still remember the day he made me return home for the weekend. When I got back, he told me both pigs had died, and he had thrown them away. I blamed myself for weeks, thinking I had given them the wrong medicine, that my inexperience had cost us the only good meal we could have had in months. But now, standing here, watching Ryder and Sage with their expensive bags of supplements, realization struck me like a punch to the gut. He had lied. Those pigs never died. Ryder had given them to Sage, using them as a way to please her. Tears welled up in my eyes not just for his deception, but for my own stupidity. How could I have been so blind? Ryder noticed me and, in a pathetic attempt to hide the evidence, shifted the bags behind his back. But Sage held onto his arm tightly, her expression smug. Oh, hi, sis, she said sweetly. I haven't been feeling well, so Ryder bought me some supplements. You don't mind, do you? Her voice was dripping with mock innocence, but I wasn't naive enough to fall for it. Ryder, emboldened by her words, frowned at me. Amber, Sage is your sister. She fainted at the train station because of low blood sugar. What's wrong with me buying her some supplements? I didn't respond, but before I could turn away, the pharmacist behind the counter spoke up. Miss, do you still want the burn ointment? It's only 80 cents a bottle, and it'll last you a long time. I glanced down at the crumpled 5-cent coin in my hand, then back up at the expensive bags Ryder was holding. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. No, thank you, I said quietly. I can't afford it. Then I walked out of the pharmacy. Ryder's expression darkened, but before he could say anything, Sage let out a dramatic sigh, playing the victim as always. Ryder, she whined, you make $30 or $40 a month, right? How could Amber not afford a simple bottle of ointment? Then, with a sly smile, she added, "Looks like Amber still holds a grudge over what happened back then. She just wanted to embarrass me." She wiped at her fake tears. "Fine. If that's how it is, I'll leave." She turned as if to go, her performance flawless. Ryder's face hardened. He strode forward, grabbing my arm to stop me in my tracks. Amber apologized to Sage. I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Why should I apologize? I asked coldly. Ryder squared his shoulders, his voice full of self-righteousness. Because Chapter 5, Sage has stayed away all these years just to avoid upsetting you, Ryder snapped. She finally comes back and you have to embarrass her like this? What kind of sister does that? I let out a bitter laugh. Oh, and what exactly should a sister do? Should she turn a blind eye when her own fiancé steals her college acceptance letter and runs off with her sister? Or should she keep pretending not to notice when that same sister gets a little too close to her husband? I couldn't hold it in anymore. All the resentment, all the pain, I finally let it spill out. But Sage gasped dramatically, tears welling in her eyes. Amber, I know you hate me, but you can't just slander me like this, she cried. I swear, nothing ever happened between me and Ryder. If you don't believe me, I can die to prove my innocence. Before I could react, she grabbed my wrist and dragged me into the middle of the road, her body trembling as if she truly meant to throw herself into oncoming traffic. But then, in the split second before she clutched my hand tighter, she leaned in, whispering just for me to hear. You're pathetic, she sneered, her voice dripping with venom. Both the men you loved only ever wanted me. Tell me, if something happens to me today, do you think Ryder will have you thrown in jail? A chill ran down my spine. My pulse pounded in my ears. I tried to yank my hand free, but before I could, Ryder rushed forward and wrenched Sage into his arms. The force of his pull sent me stumbling backward, right into the path of an oncoming car. Pain exploded through my body as the vehicle struck me. I crumpled onto the pavement, curling in on myself as agony engulfed me. Blood pooled beneath me, warm and thick, spreading rapidly across the asphalt. Ryder, however, didn't even spare me a glance. Instead, he glared at me with pure disgust. Have you lost your mind? Are you really trying to drive Sage to her death? God, how can anyone be as cruel as you? Sage, are you okay? Sage, safe in his arms, peeked up at me through her lashes. A satisfied smirk ghosted over her lips before she feigned unconsciousness, her body going limp like a rag doll. Ryder didn't hesitate. He scooped her up and sprinted toward the nearest clinic, completely ignoring the weak, desperate sounds escaping my lips as I fought to stay conscious. I could only watch as my blood continued to seep into the pavement, as the world around me faded in and out. Thankfully, a kind stranger called an ambulance and got me to the hospital. When I woke up, the doctor informed me that I was pregnant. You're showing signs of a miscarriage, he explained. You need an immediate procedure to stabilize the pregnancy. Shock and fear tangled inside me. Miscarriage? Am I pregnant? I barely had time to process it before the door swung open and Ryder walked in, still carrying Sage. She was clutching her stomach, whimpering in pain. Ryder, it hurts, she whimpered, voice weak. Is our baby going to be okay? I don't want anything to happen to him. Ryder, hurry up and get a doctor to check her out. Ryder's expression darkened with panic. He immediately turned to the nearest doctor, who was about to operate on me. Doctor, help me. I came with a woman. I think something's wrong with the baby. She needs help now. The doctor hesitated, glancing toward me. Sir, we already have a patient in need of urgent care. We can't I know her. Ryder cut him off with a sharp glare. She's my wife. She's fine. She's just faking it. His words landed like a slap. I barely had time to react before he pulled out his phone and flashed our wedding photo, solidifying his lie. But this woman, she just got hit by a car, he added, voice edged with desperation. She needs surgery soon, or the baby won't be saved. The medical staff sprang into action, pushing Sage's gurney toward the operating room. And just like that, I was forgotten again. I lay there, bleeding, my vision swimming, the pain unbearable. I clutched at Ryder's sleeve as he turned to leave, my fingers barely able to grasp him. "Ryder, please," I choked out. "The baby, our baby. I'm losing it." Ryder yanked his arm away as if my touch burned him. His eyes, once warm and full of love, were now cold and empty. "Enough with the act, Amber," he spat. "We were together for 3 years, and you never got pregnant once. Sage is pregnant and her life is at risk. You really gonna compete for a doctor too?"
Fine.
"Since you love putting on a show so much, let me help you with that." Ryder yanked me off the hospital bed and, without hesitation, kicked me in the stomach. I curled into myself, arms wrapped tightly around my belly, trying to shield my unborn child. "Please, Ryder, stop." I begged, my voice breaking. But my pleas meant nothing to him. He didn't stop until the operating room's light switched off and Sage was wheeled out. Only then did he abandon his assault, rushing to her side with worry etched all over his face. Sage leaned weakly against him, her voice barely above a whisper as she played her part flawlessly. "I'm fine, Ryder. Maybe you can tell the doctor check on my sister?" She let out a small, pained sigh before adding, "Even if she's faking, she's still my sister." Her words only fueled Ryder's rage. His eyes, already filled with contempt, darkened as he turned back to me. "Check on her? For what? You just had surgery. The doctors need to stay with you," he said, his voice dripping with venom. "As for that pathetic bitch who insists on competing with you for everything, let her die for all I care." He held Sage protectively as they left, his cruel words cutting through me like a blade. I lay there on the cold hospital floor, abandoned, bleeding, and utterly broken.
"But I didn't die."
A familiar voice broke through the haze of pain. Nick Westwood, the son of the bookstore owner who sold me my study materials, happened to pass by. He immediately called for a doctor, and I was rushed to emergency care. I survived, but my baby did not. "The patient suffered blunt force trauma to the abdomen," the doctor explained. "The pregnancy was forcibly terminated." His words felt like a death sentence. My trembling hand found its way to my stomach, to the place where my child should have been growing. Now there was nothing, just an unbearable emptiness. I hadn't even had the chance to feel the joy of becoming a mother before it was ripped away from me. Just like everything else in my life. Because of Ryder. Because of my own blind love for him. Tears slid down my face, silent and unending. Nick clenched his fists beside me, his voice laced with fury. "Amber, I know everything now. I swear I'm going to make that bastard pay." I shook my head, my voice hoarse from crying. He won't admit to anything. And even if he did, what difference would it make? Would it bring my baby back? Would it erase the 3 wasted years of my life?
No.
I wanted him to suffer. To lose everything he held dear. To wake up every day drowning in pain. Chapter 6. For the next few weeks, I focused on recovering at the clinic. Nick stayed by my side, taking care of me and even covering my medical bills. Ryder never came. In the days that followed, I stayed at the clinic to recover. Nick took it upon himself to care for me, even covering my medical bills. Unlike Ryder, who never came. Not once. He knew where I was. How could he not? Sage's hospital room was right next door. But in his eyes, I was nothing more than a liar, a manipulator. After all, we had been together for 3 years without a pregnancy. How could it possibly happen now, at such a convenient time? But none of that mattered anymore. I had only one goal now, to heal and leave this place forever. The day I was discharged, I passed by Sage's hospital room. I wasn't planning to stop, but a glimpse through the slightly open door froze me in my tracks. Inside, Sage was straddling Ryder's lap, her hands trailing seductively down his chest. His breathing was heavy, his hands gripping her waist, though he was clearly trying to resist. "Sage, don't." But Sage only pressed closer, her lips brushing against his ear. "Why are you so tense? The baby I'm carrying is yours. What's there to be afraid of?" She let out a soft, teasing laugh, her fingers tracing down his jaw. I miss you, Ryder. Seeing you once a month in the city isn't enough. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but I heard every word. Or, have you started to care about Amber? Are you planning to abandon me for her?
Fine then.
If you don't want me, I'll just leave. She made a show of pulling away, her face twisted in mock hurt. Ryder immediately grabbed her wrist, pulling her back against him. Don't be ridiculous, he murmured, his voice low and strained. You know I only love you. He cupped her cheek tenderly, looking at her with an adoration he had never once given me. Everything I've ever done, all of it was for you. Marrying her, using her, it was all for you, Sage. Only you. His voice softened further, an intimate confession meant only for her ears. Ryder and Sage tangled together, their bodies pressed so intimately that I felt bile rise in my throat. My marriage, something I once took so much pride in, had always had her shadow looming over it. She turned her head deliberately and looked straight at me, a slow, knowing smirk curling her lips. That's when I realized she wanted me to see this. She had orchestrated it all. I stumbled away, my vision blurring as I fled down the hall. I barely noticed where I was going until I found myself in the stairwell, gripping the railing to keep myself upright. My chest heaved, my breath shaky and uneven. Then suddenly she was there. Did you hear all that, Amber? Sage's voice dripped with sickly sweetness, her steps light and unhurried as she approached me from behind. Ryder never loved you. He never even wanted you. The only people in his world are me and the baby I'm carrying. She let out a soft, mocking laugh. It's just that. I was never pregnant. Chapter 7. Her words slammed into me like a freight train. My stomach churned violently, and I clutched at my midsection, the emptiness inside me in unbearable contrast to the horror of her confession. As for your baby, she continued, her tone faux sympathetic. Tragic, isn't it? Ryder kicked it out of you himself. She clicked her tongue in mock pity. But hey, what can you do? The Calloway brothers have always loved me more. She tilted her head, her eyes shining with cruel amusement. Remember when I said I wanted to go to school? One brother stole your acceptance letter and took me away, while the other let rats gnaw on you in the woodshed. I felt my nails dig into my palms, my body trembling with rage. Oh, and do you know why Ryder saved you back then? She added, feigning an innocent pout. Because I called him. I told him if he left you to die, people might start asking questions. That's the only reason he ever took you to a doctor. Sage took a step closer, leaning in just enough for her perfume to suffocate me. You'll never beat me, Amber, she whispered, her voice venomous. You never have, and you never will. My body moved before I could think. My hand shot up, ready to slap her across the face, not for myself, but for my baby. For the life that was stolen before it had a chance to begin. But before my palm could connect, a vice-like grip clamped around my wrist. Amber. Ryder's furious voice rang out. Have you lost your damn mind? Sage just got out of surgery, and you're trying to hurt her. His face twisted with disgust as he yanked my arm down. I should have known you were this cruel. I should have never saved you back then. I stared up at him, my breath shuddering. Ryder, I whispered, my voice raw. The woodshed always had cats in it. You really think I got the plague by accident? For the briefest second, his expression faltered. His pupils shrank, his grip on my wrist loosening. He knew exactly what I was talking about. Yet still, he shook his head. I don't know what you're talking about. He turned away, pulling Sage into his arms. But leave Sage alone. She is innocent in all of this. Innocent. I laughed, the sound bitter and hollow. She's lying to you. She was never pregnant. Enough. He shot me one last glare. Stay away from her. If you ever touch her again, I swear, I'll divorce you. My fingers clenched around the fabric of my dress, my nails digging into my skin. It was over. I had no reason to stay anymore. I went to the hospital and requested an official record of my miscarriage. Then I made my way to my old school, where I found the archived files from 3 years ago. My heart clenched as I flipped through the papers, each one stamped with the same 3 words, accepted for enrollment. Tears welled in my eyes. This was my punishment for loving the wrong person. I gathered the documents, placed them in an envelope along with the signed divorce papers, and mailed them to Ryder. Then, with nothing but the money Nick lent me, I went to the school where I had first been accepted and officially canceled all enrollment under the name Amber. After that, I didn't go to the capital to wait for the new semester to start. Instead, I took the little money I had and headed south to Cypress Hollow. Nick once told me that the South was a land of endless opportunities. I wanted to save up some money for my education. And more than anything, I wanted to sever all ties with my past for good. Third POV. Ryder had spent the past 7 days at home with Sage, yet there had been no sign of Amber. Growing restless, he had gone to the hospital, only to be told that she had been discharged a week ago. A faint sense of unease crept into his chest. Amber and Sage had lost their parents young and were taken in by the Calloway family. She had no relatives, no close friends. If she hadn't come home after leaving the hospital, where could she have gone? Then it hit him, the school. Whenever they argued and she refused to go home, she would always stay at the school. Chapter 8. As soon as the thought struck him, Ryder grabbed his bike and pedaled furiously toward the school. His heart pounded against his ribs, a mixture of unease and desperation clawing at him. He had to find her. But when he arrived, there was no sign of Amber. Just as he was about to leave, the school's elderly janitor called out to him. "Mr. Calloway, there's a package here. Your wife sent it. Could it be Amber?" Relief flooded Ryder's chest. He knew it. She loved him too much to stay angry. Maybe this was her way of making peace. A letter, an apology, some kind of reassurance that everything was still okay between them. With shaking hands, he tore open the package. But instead of a letter, he found official documents staring back at him. His breath hitched. A school admission record. He dug deeper, his fingers pulling out another. And another. 3 years' worth of neatly filed acceptance letters, all confirming Amber had been admitted to the school. Each one stamped and official. His hands trembled. How long had she known? The janitor seemed to hesitate before speaking. That day, when your parents visited, she stood outside for a long time. I don't know what happened, but suddenly, her eyes turned red, like she'd just had her heart ripped out. Ryder's mind exploded with realization. The last sheet of paper slipped from the package, fluttering to the ground. He bent down, picking it up with stiff fingers. His pulse roared in his ears as his gaze landed on the words at the top. His breath caught in his throat as his eyes darted to the words, miscarriage due to physical trauma. And then, in the patient's name field, Amber Calloway. His knees buckled. The weight of it crashed down on him, stealing the air from his lungs. His vision blurred. Pregnant. She had been pregnant. With his child. Ryder clenched the paper so hard his knuckles turned white. He felt sick, remembering the way he had lashed out, the way his fists had landed on her fragile body, the way she had crumpled beneath his anger. Ryder staggered to his feet, panic flooding his system. He had to find her.
Now.
But before he could move, a frantic voice rang out. Ryder. It was Sage. She rushed toward him, tears streaming down her face. My school records, someone erased them. I won't be able to graduate, she wailed, clutching at his arm. It has to be that bitch, Amber.
She's always been jealous of me.
First, she fought me for your attention when we were kids. Then she tried to steal my education. Ryder barely heard her. His mind was spinning, drowning in the weight of what he had just learned. What am I supposed to do now? Without my diploma, I can't get a job, Sage continued, oblivious to his turmoil. I don't want to rot in this backwater town like you. I deserve better than this. I don't want to be some lowly nobody. Ryder's stomach twisted. A backwater town. A lowly nobody. That was how she saw him. He had given everything for her. Worked himself to the bone, sacrificed his own happiness, destroyed the one woman who had ever truly loved him. And now, standing here, hearing the disgust in her voice, he realized the bitter truth. Sage had never seen him as family, only as a tool. A sharp pain tore through his chest, and before he could stop himself, A mouthful of blood spilled past his lips. His body wavered, his knees threatening to give out. Sage recoiled. She actually, if he were stepped back, as something dirty, repulsive. And in that moment, Ryder finally saw her for what she truly was. Sage wasn't worth for all the sacrifices he made. Without another word, he turned and walked away. Sage wasn't having it. She ran after him, yanking at his arm. Say something. You know Amber did this. That bitch ruined my future. Find her and make her fix it. Bitch, she spat again, her face twisted in rage. Nothing like the delicate girl she pretended to be. Ryder clenched his jaw. Amber had never once insulted Sage. Even after she had stolen her university admission, even after she had taken her fiancé, Amber had never said a single cruel word about her. And yet, here was Sage, ripping into her without hesitation. How had he been so blind? Ryder yanked his arm free and met her gaze, cold and unyielding. Amber is gone. Sage faltered for just a second before scoffing.
Please.
She's just hiding because she knows she screwed me over. You need to find her, Ryder. If she doesn't fix my school records, my whole life is ruined. Ryder stared at her, the last shreds of his old loyalty disintegrating like ash in the wind. Sage, the sister he had protected, the girl he had once sworn to always put first, the person he had thrown everything away for, a person who even now had no idea what she had cost him, what she had cost Amber. A bitter chuckle escaped his lips. He had been a fool. She's your sister, Sage. More than that, she's your sister-in-law. His voice was sharp as a blade. If I hear you call her that word again, I will make you regret it. Sage's mouth fell open, disbelief flashing across her face. But Ryder wasn't finished. And as for your school records?
He scoffed.
They were never yours to begin with. If they're gone, then they're gone. Without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving Sage behind. For the first time in his life, he knew exactly who he needed to find. Chapter 9. Ryder had already made up his mind. Once he found Amber, he would apologize properly. If she wanted to go to college, he'd support her. If she wanted a child, he'd hand over his entire paycheck just to make sure she could recover and be healthy. As long as she was willing to forgive him, he'd do anything. Sage, however, was panicking. That diploma was her only chance. She rushed after Ryder, but in her haste, she tripped and fell hard onto the ground. Crying out in pain, she demanded that Ryder take her to the clinic. But the Ryder who had once treated her like a precious jewel, afraid to let her fall, terrified she'd get hurt, didn't even turn his head this time. Instead, he jumped onto his bike and rode off, leaving her behind as he went searching for Amber. For the next 2 weeks, Ryder searched everywhere, but there was no trace of her. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Someone at the train station vaguely recalled seeing her half a month ago, so Ryder assumed she had gone to college. He immediately bought a ticket to the city and spent days waiting outside Winthrop University, hoping to catch a glimpse of her when school started. But she never appeared. Then, the Calloway family called him, telling him that Sage was experiencing severe morning sickness and demanding that he return home immediately. Ryder refused. The moment Amber walked away, he had made up his mind. Maybe 3 years ago, he had harbored some feelings for Sage. But in the past 3 years, the only woman he had truly loved was Amber. Now and forever, he would only be with her. The Calloway elders, however, weren't about to let the matter go. You ungrateful bastard, they roared over the phone. You had the guts to steal your brother's wife, but you won't take responsibility? Sage says she's carrying your child. If you don't come back, she's going to hang herself in front of our house. Do you want to be the reason we're all shamed? Ryder returned home. From the moment he stepped back through the door, Sage clung to him. She had somehow found out that Amber never showed up to register for school, and she immediately began scheming, trying to take Amber's place once again. But this time, Ryder refused without hesitation. In fact, he was so furious that he grabbed Sage's wrist and dragged her toward the clinic, insisting she get an abortion. Sage fought back desperately, refusing to comply. In the struggle, Ryder shoved her, and she fell to the ground. Blood pooled beneath her, sending Mr. and Mrs. Calloway into a panic. They cursed Ryder as they rushed Sage to the clinic. But when the doctor examined her, the truth came out. Sage had never been pregnant. Years of repeated abortions had left her completely infertile. Even when she was caught red-handed, Sage still tried to deflect blame, sobbing and pointing fingers at Finn. But Finn had come back for one reason, to finalize their divorce. And he was done covering for her. She threatened me for years, Finn admitted coldly. I wanted to leave her, but she blackmailed me over what happened back then. But I never imagined she'd go after you, too. He turned to Ryder, his expression filled with disgust. I refuse to be tied to someone this vile. If she wants to ruin everything, fine. I'll tell the whole damn town what she's been up to. I burn with her, if that's what it takes to bring her down. And with that, Finn divorced her. Sage, now left with no one to rely on, was terrified. Desperate, she tried the same manipulative tactics on Ryder, threatening to expose him if he didn't marry her. But Ryder was beyond done with her. He refused, even if it meant losing everything, his job, his freedom, even going to jail. In the end, it was the Calloway elders who stepped in, fearful that both their sons would be ruined by Sage's schemes. They took her back home, keeping her comfortable and well-fed, shielding her from the consequences of her own actions. As for Ryder, he never stopped searching for Amber. Every year, during summer and winter breaks, he would use whatever time off he had to travel across the country, carrying the only photograph he had of them together, asking strangers if they had seen her. What he didn't know was that Amber had headed south and started her own small business. With sheer determination and relentless hard work, she had earned her first fortune, proving that she didn't need anyone to save her. She could build a life for herself, on her own terms. Chapter 10 Amber's POV. The following year, through sheer determination, I exceeded Winthrop University's admission score by 30 points. But instead of heading to the capital, I chose to stay in Blackberry Hollow for my studies. My business was just starting to take off, and I wasn't willing to abandon it halfway. What I didn't expect, however, was to run into an old acquaintance, Nick. He had taken the college entrance exams the same year I did, yet somehow he was already a professor here. Watching him shine, I couldn't help but wonder, if my acceptance letter hadn't been stolen, would I have had a future just as bright? Nick, as if reading my thoughts, simply smiled. I'm just a junior lecturer. It's nothing impressive. You have a big world ahead of you, Amber. I believe in that. Encouraged by his words, I threw myself into my studies. By day, I attended lectures, absorbing everything I could. By night, I worked tirelessly on my business, often staying up until dawn. Finally, my efforts paid off. By my third year, I was selected for an overseas exchange program. At the same time, my business flourished. I had established my own factory, securing financial independence. As my flight took off, I was surprised to find Nick seated next to me. He offered a sheepish smile. The school is sending me abroad for training. Coincidentally, it's the same university as yours. But I knew the truth. There were no faculty slots for international training that year. I didn't call him out on it, though. I was well aware of how much Nick had looked out for me over the years. But after everything I'd been through, after the heartbreak I had barely clawed my way out of, Elle wasn't ready to accept someone new. Not yet. The following years flew by in a blur. I completed my studies overseas, earning both my master's and doctorate degrees. Nick was always by my side, not as a professor, but as the one managing my growing business abroad. I watched as he negotiated with foreign investors in their fluent language, his confidence unwavering. And yet, no matter how busy he was, he never forgot to drape his coat over my shoulders whenever the cold set in. One evening, as we stood outside, the winter air crisp around us, I finally realized it was time to move on. It was time to give this man, who had stayed by my side for so long, an answer. Turning to him, I said, "This new year, take me to meet your parents." Nick blinked in surprise, clearly not expecting my words. I took his hand and smiled. "I want to get married." His face lit up like a child's on Christmas morning. That very night, He booked our flights back home. Upon landing, we went straight to the department store, loading up on gifts before heading to his family home to discuss our engagement. That was when Ryder appeared. I spotted him in the town square, holding up a faded photograph, stopping every passerby to ask if they had seen me. Then his gaze landed on me. His eyes widened in disbelief before he broke into a desperate sprint. Grabbing my hand tightly, he choked out, "Amber, I finally found you. Come home with me." I yanked my hand away, meeting his gaze with cold indifference. "Excuse me, sir. Do we know each other?" Ryder froze, staring at me as if I had just stabbed him in the chest. "Amber, it's me. I'm Ryder, your husband." "You don't remember me?" he exclaimed, pointing at himself. "Look, I still have our picture." He held up the worn photograph. The edges were frayed, the image faded, but there I was, an 18-year-old girl, smiling shyly, blissfully unaware of the lies she had been fed. But that girl was gone. I wasn't that naive, love-struck fool anymore, blindly believing in Ryder's carefully crafted illusions. I turned away, ready to leave, but Ryder stepped in front of me, blocking my path. His expression twisted with desperation, his gaze flickering toward Nick. "It's because of him, isn't it? I know him. 7 years ago, in the hospital, he was always lingering outside your ward." Ryder spat, his hands curling into fists. "You didn't come back all these years because of him, didn't you? He kidnapped you, didn't he?" His voice cracked with anger, his face contorted with rage. "You bastard, stealing another man's wife. I'll kill you." With that, Ryder lunged at Nick, fists raised, ready for a fight. Chapter 11. Ryder raised his fist, but I immediately stepped in front of Nick, shielding him. "That's enough, Ryder," I snapped. "This has nothing to do with Nick. You've already made your choice. You picked Sage, so go be with her and stop harassing me." "I didn't," Ryder denied frantically. "Amber, I swear, I never chose her. She lied to me. Everything she said was a lie, even the pregnancy. It was all fake." He took a desperate step forward, his voice trembling. "Amber, my heart has always belonged to you.
Come home with me.
If you want to study, I'll support you. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. Just please be with me." For 3 long years, I had begged for his love, his loyalty, his devotion. And now, after everything, he was finally offering it to me when I no longer wanted it. He lost me the moment he burned my college acceptance letter. He lost me when he pushed me toward that speeding car, for her. He lost me when he killed our child with his own hands. He and I, we were done. "Ryder," I said, my voice calm but ice cold. "You and I were never married. And those 3 years? I'll count them as charity, wiped from my memory, gone for good." My voice was cold, detached. "If you keep causing trouble, I'll call the police." Ryder's expression crumbled as panic flashed in his eyes. "What do you mean we weren't married? We were together for 3 years. Why do you dash? Because you and I never registered our marriage." I cut him off with a single sentence. He froze. Then, as if the truth had physically struck him, he collapsed to the ground. Yes, he had taken me as his wife, but there had been no wedding, no ceremony, no legal documents. Just a simple red background photo of the two of us. I had begged him to make it official, time and time again. But he always had an excuse, always found a way to avoid it. Later, I finally understood why. Ryder had never wanted to fully commit, because deep down, he had always been waiting for Sage. Well, at least he saved me the trouble of filing for divorce. I walked away from him for good, stepping into a new chapter of my life. From this moment on, we were nothing to each other. Nick took me home to meet his parents, and they welcomed me warmly, treating me like family from the start. As we sat together, they shared countless stories of his childhood, laughing at his mischief and recalling his dreams. It was then that I learned Nick had liked me for years, since we were students. He had kept his feelings hidden, knowing I was engaged. And later, when I was abandoned and then married off to Ryder, he could only stand by and watch helplessly as I was trapped in that nightmare. He had regretted it ever since. If only he had been braver back then, Would things have turned out differently? But fate had finally given us a second chance. That night, the sky lit up with fireworks, exploding in dazzling colors. Nick's family had arranged an entire fireworks display just to welcome me. Standing beside Nick, I intertwined my fingers with his, warmth spreading through my chest. Happiness, I realized, was so simple. Later, when Sage found out Ryder had come looking for me, they had a vicious fight. Enraged, she threatened him, using their past as leverage against him. But Ryder snapped. He grabbed a knife and attacked her in a blind rage. By the time it was over, Sage lay on the ground, her lower body drenched in blood. Screaming, she crawled toward the door, begging for help. When the police arrived, Ryder was still standing over her, his face twisted in madness, yet eerily calm. "This is what she deserves," he murmured. "If it weren't for her, Amber and I would still be together. We would have grown old together, had a beautiful child." His voice grew darker, his eyes unfocused. "She ruined me. She ruined everything." Ryder's confession unraveled the truth behind everything that had happened, exposing every crime the Calloway family had tried to bury. As a result, the entire Calloway family was sentenced to prison. Sage survived, but was left paralyzed from the waist down. With no one willing to care for her, she was forced to beg on the streets. But no one would give her a second glance. Everyone remembered the cruel things she had done, and even the most compassionate passers-by refused to spare her a single scrap of food. One cold New Year's Eve, she froze to death alone on the streets. When Nick heard the news, he gently asked me, "Do you want to arrange for her burial?"
No.
I didn't even hesitate. She once forced me to the edge of despair, telling me it was simply my fate. Now, she had met her own end, and I had the same answer for her. It was her fate. Another spring came, bringing with it new beginnings. With a child growing inside me, I married Nick, the man who had always been by my side. Not long after, I gave birth to a beautiful set of twins. From that moment on, our lives were filled with warmth, laughter, and the love of a family finally complete. No more turbulence. No more pain. Just happiness, simple and pure.